what I always say this, I always like to reiterate it because it's so important, is the thing to remember about Bitwave is when you're doing your categorization work on the transaction screen, what's happening is you are not making gain loss decisions of any type. You're not making capitalization decisions, you're not making wrapping decisions, and you're not making gain loss decisions. You are purely putting together a set of facts that we are then going to take and project into a gain loss space. We're going to take these facts and we're going to put them into a space that is, here are the gain loss implications, here's the accounting gain loss, tax gain loss, whatever it is. This is so powerful because this is what allows us to seamlessly adhere to a brand new set of standards like FASB without you having to do anything. So the important one there is that, with wrapping treatments, the way we've always treated wrapping is that you come into Bitwave and you need to treat it as a trade. So you set a wrapping treatment as a trade. And what that tells us is that this is a form of converting between these two tokens. On the back end, you then set up your actual wrapping treatments. So we then have these, we then have all these wrapping treatments that allow you to say, like, okay, WBTC maps to BTC, WETH maps to ETH. So what that tells us is to treat those tokens as exactly the same, treat them as the same inventory, basically treat them as the exact same token. Because we do that segregated, that means that it's basically seamless. If you've been doing all of your accounting for the entire last however long using wrap tokens, and now with FASB you need to stop doing that, it is incredibly simple to actually do that. So if you're not familiar with inventory views, these are inventory views. It's a set of different views into your inventory that are projections on your set of facts that you give us into different gain loss spaces. Everyone should be familiar with it, but in case you're not, that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do FASB 2024 as one of our new inventory views. You'll notice in this case, we already have a GAAP. We already have a US GAAP rule. So we already have a US GAAP inventory view loaded up that is set up to use FIFO to capitalize fees. This is going to change because now with FASB, they want you expensing fees instead of capitalizing. It's impairment only, and then it uses the wrapping treatments coming off of the. It does not use the wrapping treatments coming off of the system here. So we're going to do FASB 2024 here. FASB 2024. Still going to use FIFO. We're going to turn off capitalized fees. So now instead of fees getting capitalized into the cost basis of the acquired or the acquired asset during a trade, you will now see an expense that is a pure disposition, and the cost basis of the acquired asset will be only carried forward from the disposed asset. So you dispose of one ETH, you then acquire this. Those two will match exactly. The fee will now be totally segregated. We're going to do so. Here's where it starts to get a little bit interesting. So first and foremost, we have this new button down here. You might have seen it. You might not have. I'm going to talk a lot about this today, which is the engine version. Bitwave has always had engine versions behind the scenes, but we decided to start surfacing those up to our customers so that you guys can make intelligent decisions about what version you want to run your inventory views on and things like that. As we fix bugs, we update the engine version here. This is so that if you ran a report a year ago and then you run it today, if you're using the same inventory, the same engine version, the report should absolutely match. Even if we fix little bugs, carry forward stuff, carry backward stuff, all of that sort of thing, they should match exactly. But you really should try to stay on the newest engine version because you get new features off of it. So I'm going to go up to the engine version 2.2 here, which adds in a couple new options here. It adds in the fair market value, and it adds in a couple of other things underneath it here. The first decision that you have to make when you're looking at FASB is the FASB adherence here. Do you want all of your stuff to be fair valued, and then you just choose the things that you think should be impaired? Or do you want to still do everything impairment, and then just pick a couple of things that you want to have as fair valued? Both work totally fine with Bitwave. I tend to think the more conservative stance is you say, we're going to impair everything except for things that we know that we can do fair value on. So that's what I'm going to set up here. I'm going to say GAAP impairment for everything. We're going to use daily low, and then I'm going to add the valuation strategies for exactly the tokens that I don't want to actually be fair valued. So in this case, BTC and ETH, I'm going to say, let's do fair value on those. So this is fair value, this is fair value, we're all good. I can do other stuff here. I'm going to ignore the wrapping treatments because in this case, I do not want ETH to be mapped to WETH. I do not want WBTC to be mapped to BTC because that goes against the FASB guidance. And then if I had to do anything clever with inventories, this is it. If you haven't watched it, last quarter release, we went into detail on our inventory grouping. It is an incredibly powerful feature that lets you either have one inventory for your whole organization, one inventory per wallet, or to group wallets into sets of inventories that then can be mapped to digital asset accounts. And then from the digital asset account mapping, you can have one digital asset account on your GL, you can have one per wallet, you can have one per asset, or you can have one per inventory group. It is really, really, really powerful. It is incredibly flexible for how you want to work. That's always been our mantra here. And that's it. I mean, I spent a lot of time talking. If everyone here knows me, so you guys all know I'm a talker. But I spent a ton of time talking there. But honestly, that was about 30 seconds, and we now have our FASB 2024, 2024 Jan inventory view all set up. That's all it does. So I'm going to keep the US GAAP one that was there, right? I don't want to get rid of the US GAAP one because the US GAAP one is my historic. So that's what I've been using up to this point. But I'm going to now run my FASB 2024. The cool part is that when this runs, we're now going to have two different inventory views to look at that have two different like roll forward pieces around them. So I can now compare very easily. All right, here's my roll forward off of my gap treatment with impairment. Here's my roll forward with fair valuation. That's gonna be different. Like there will be, I will have a windfall because my fair value treatment will be less losses than my impairment treatment. And then the difference between those on the day that you want to pick becomes the booking to do that conversion from fair value to treatment. And then you just use your fair value inventory view going forward. But you get to keep all of the if I go back here, you get to keep all of the historics. So you have all of your historic data for how you're doing gap, and then now you have your reasserted one with how you're doing it under FASB. So really exciting stuff. Everyone should be doing this here. You can see when you actually look at this, you can see new things here. So you still have impairment for this token here because Link we set up as impaired. But now for ETH, we're actually doing adjustments. You can see upward and downward adjustments for fair value happening here.